Hey friends, welcome to this how section of training on blogging for business. This will be how part one, and I'll record how part two as well. We're going to start with how to blog for business. Choose a platform. Like, where do you start? What do you do? So that's the first thing you need to do. Choose a platform. Now, I don't know everything about every platform there is. I'll tell you what I do know and what I have chosen and used since 2009. The two free ones that I know of are Blogger, which is run by Google, and Weebly. You will recognize Blogger, someone who uses Blogger, because at the end of their blog address, it's whatever it is, .blogspot.com. That's Blogger. Weebly is the other one that I've heard of and I believe is free. I use Blogger, and actually everyone with a Gmail account automatically gets a connected Blogger account. It may be empty. You may have not put anything in your Blogger, in your blog, but you automatically have one when you have a Gmail account. I know Candy May has used Weebly a couple of times. So if you use Blogger, I can be a resource for that. If you use Weebly, Candy would be a good resource. There may be other free platforms as well. I just don't know about them. If you choose a free platform, the design is kind of set up for you and you just fill in the blanks. Your blog address will either end with .blogspot.com for Blogger by Gmail or .weebly.com if you use Weebly. That's never bothered me. And I like not spending any money. I like the free part of that. I like to try something new without committing to it with dollars. So, but some people do prefer the paid version where the blog company name doesn't have any, your blog name doesn't have the company name attached to it. So if you prefer a paid version, or you just want maybe a more professional look or something without that Blogspot or Weebly in your address, WordPress is one of the most common blogging sites. You have to pay for web hosting a certain amount per month. I've used WordPress before when I was a contributor for a couple of different blogs that I was invited to write for. I personally didn't find it super user-friendly, but a lot of people do. It may just be because I was used to Blogger. I don't know too much about the paid versions of blogs and websites, but we have a couple of team members who do use those. So let me know if you want more information about the paid version. All right, once you've set up your blog, actually, let me show you mine really quick. I was going to do that. Hold on, not that. Share screen. Okay, so you've probably seen my blog before because I share blog posts like all the time. So you can see right here, this is my blog, and it's called lifetalesbooks.blogspot.com. And then I've got, these are called pages. And so if you want to click more about like the specials or whatever, then here's all the information about the specials or all the different events I have going on, etc. Right? But if you click home, these are my actual blog posts. These are my articles. Here's how to create photo and story treasures. I don't want to give you a headache, but I want to scroll through this kind of fast. The next one is called the best self-care method that you've never even thought of, and such. Okay. Now I'm going to scroll back up and show a couple of other things. So this is where I write over here on the left. And then over here on the right, you can put a search bar. You can put, oh, hey, here's what's happening next. You can highlight videos, a bio. This goes is a clicks. You can click this and goes to my ebook. Blog readers and counting. So you can just kind of add some little extra things. The way Blogger is set up, you can either put it on the left, put it on the right, or both. I like it just on one side because I think it's less distracting, but don't have to have it at all if you don't want to. But anyway, there's just kind of a lot of different things you can do. If you come up here and click this little over here way at the left, this is the actual Blogger tool. Oh, I forgot I'm not logged in here. Never mind. I can't do that. But if you go there, it'll show you. There's like a little thing that you click that says layout, and you can kind of rearrange things. Like if I want search this blog to be way down here below this or whatever, you know, I can kind of move everything around. You can set your font, you can do a whole bunch of things. So anyway, that is what Blogger looks like. Well, let me come back over here and talk about, once you've decided what you want to use, Blogger, Weebly, whatever, there's probably a bunch more that I don't know about. Next, you decide what to write. Once you get it kind of all set up and decide what you know, get ready to go, now you got to decide what to write. And I have a little bit of advice about that, just because writing is pretty easy for me, and I know it isn't for everyone. So I just want to tell you kind of how I do it. I tend to get inspired by client questions or even their issues. I don't have enough time, right? I can't even tell you. That's not a blog post I thought when I started the blog that I would ever write, but I've written several things about time management and stuff. So just that's what I tend to do. People have questions or people have issues, then I tend to explore that and write about them. I also find inspiration in my own projects. So, oh, hey, I made this water bottle. It's so cool, whatever. And just, you know, things that I'm working on personally. Or if I try a new product, I'll take pictures, explain why it was cool to make it, who I'm giving it to, why this would apply to the reader. Hey, if you have a mother-in-law who has everything in the world, this could be a cool, you know, gift idea for you or whatever, okay? Another great source of inspiration is reading other blogs and articles. I reference that a little bit in my my why of blogging video, but it is really helpful. I read it and I go, oh, that's really cool. And then my brain kind of starts working and I think, oh, I want to write something about that. Now, let me caution you a little bit here, because Google, the search engine itself, is constantly on the lookout for plagiarism. So if you quote someone, you must give attribution. You have to put the quote in quotes and you have to give your source. Summarizing is acceptable, but even a few of the same words in a row looks like plagiarism, so be really sure that you're summarizing. Don't quote entire paragraphs, just give a little, you know, couple of sentence quotes. If you quote or use an idea from someone else, it is also best to put a link to that original blog post in your blog post so that you can credit your source and show what it is. Now, as a side note, that actually also benefits you. When people do Google searches for a certain topic, your posts are more likely to show up in searches when you have links to other articles in your article. That's because Google sees it as less of an opinion piece. Here's what I think about all these things, and more of a backed up, sourced article that relates to other things that people are interested in. Okay, so anytime you put a link in your article, it gets recognized more, it gets boosted more by Google. So I always put a link at least to my Forever account in my posts, and sometimes links to my YouTube channel videos, or sometimes links to other blog posts I've written. So it can be links to pretty much anything, but just the more you're connected to other relevant things, the more Google assumes that your post is relevant too. That said, about plagiarism, you are always welcome to use my blog posts as inspiration for your own blog posts. Please, I've been writing for lots of years, and so hopefully I've said a few interesting, good things in there that can inspire you. So just be sure you don't copy and paste, because what happens when Google suspects plagiarism is that they shut us both down, especially if you're using Blogger like I am. So take my idea. If you find one that's interesting, take my idea, but start from scratch, writing your take on it. And that can be said for any article that you take inspiration from. And as long as we're talking about my blog, I just want to mention one more thing. If you do use my blog as inspiration, I suggest that you stick with posts from like 2016, 2017 to the present, because the posts from 2009 to 2015 are not really as professional. I didn't really know what I was doing. At first, I just used them as general information things that I could point my clients to if they had questions or they wanted an idea or something. Um, it kept me from having to like explain the same thing over again a whole bunch of times. It was like, oh, I wrote a blog post with all those instructions in it. Here you go. But it wasn't until about 2016 that I learned about blogging to an audience, like to a wider audience. I learned that you want a title that's catchy, that makes your audience want to click and read it and stuff like that. So my later ones are definitely better. Not perfect probably, but better than like 2010. So just FYI. All right. The last thing that I want to talk about in this video about how to blog is just a few tips that I've learned about blogging. So a couple of things I've learned about writing blog posts are that people's attention spans are shorter than they used to be. So when you write an article, it is important to keep the paragraphs short and easy to read. Include images to break up the text, because when people see like a paragraph, it's overwhelming and they just like gloss over. So if you do a couple paragraphs, a picture, a couple paragraphs, a video, a link to something else, people are kind of more engaged. You can include images that you've taken from forever, the website or whatever, or you can create your own. Even you can use those images to create your own images. At some place like canva.com, which is what I use. I use the free version of Canva, and I've been doing it for years, and I'm totally happy with it. I get everything that I want. Another tip is to consider, when you consider what to write, is what will attract other people. When you read like personal blogs, some people kind of treat it as a journal. Oh, Joey got his braces off, blah, blah, blah. And you just write whatever you want. But for professional blogs, you want to draw people in. You're not just writing to your friends and family, right? You want to attract other people. So in order to attract readership, you should write with your audience in mind. What would they be interested in? What do people need to know? And do that every time. Sometimes, I just found this like the other day, it's still on my phone, so I have to read it to you. Sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming if you don't love writing already to think about what to write. And I saw this on Instagram from Adam Grant, who is a like brilliant business guy, strategist kind of guy, but he's kind of a brilliant human as well. He's at Adam M. Grant on Twitter, and I can't remember what he's on at Instagram. I think maybe just Adam Grant, but anyway, he's a bald dude and he writes really cool stuff. So if you want to look him up and can't find him, let me know. All right, so he said this about writing. Writing isn't what you do after you have an idea. It's how you develop an inkling into an insight. Turning thoughts into words sharpens your reasoning. What's fuzzy is in your head is clear on the page. So I'm not a writer shouldn't stop you from writing. Writing is a tool for thinking. So that is excellent advice. Don't be afraid of writing just because you're not a writer. Start, like just put some thoughts on paper. You might need, or on the computer, you might need to rearrange it or reword things or, whatever, but that's okay. Get started writing, and that whole kind of thinking process will come together as you do it. So one last tip for this video is to not be apologetic. I attended a training for business where the gal teaching it said to never apologize. When I first started blogging, I only posted like once a month or less. Sometimes I would go 2 or 3 months, 4, without posting anything, because I didn't want to bother people, okay? But the lady in the training said that if you treat people like you're bothering them, then you've just introduced to them the idea that you're bothersome. And what you have to share is an intrusion, when that actually may have never occurred to them before, okay? So when you write, or even when you talk about your business, don't minimize what you're offering. because it makes it too easy for other people to minimize. Instead, she said, focus on the fact that you're offering what you're offering because it has immense value. It's worth their time. It's awesome. It's so cool. It's worth their time and it's worth your time to offer it. So successful blogging, when we're relating that to blogging, successful blogging should be consistent so that your readers are seeing your message repeatedly. Now, you don't want to write 15 blog posts a day. Probably every week, every 2 weeks is probably about right. But don't write apologetically and don't share apologetically. What you are sharing is amazing. And it's beneficial to the people who are learning about it. And it can change people's lives. So make sure that your message matches that. So that's part one of how to blog for business.